Camera recorded. Okay, let's make a start. Good morning. I'm sorry, I had to call you all for this session. There's something I missed on Saturday. But more importantly, I was just talking to the group, and maybe we could have combined the morning session, both classes. Because I had the same session in the morning as well for other class. We could have combined it, but I think the university wanted to keep to certain rules. Because I think they assumed that I did that class separate session and maybe different subject or whatever. I don't know. So yeah, I'm sorry, it's only 10 of us here, but I think there's about another 10 or so on the online. So that's fine. It's okay. We will anyway do it. Right. So let's make a start. So today we are going to talk about finance and costing and contracts of a project. Before I do that, this website here is a very useful website. I use it quite a lot. It has thousands and thousands of templates, right? Project management templates. So when I want to do let's say, project charter or WBS or Gantt chart or whatever, you can download templates. So and then you can be very specific. If you say charter for a IT project, then there's a separate way of doing it. If you say charter for a construction, then there's a separate. So there are a lot of templates you can download and use it if you have to do some projects in the future, right? So to keep that in mind, right? So we started with looking at charter. Then we went on to looking at WBS, then PERT or CPM. Then we went on to do Gantt. And then we went on to do resource and optimizing resource. Right? Optimizing resource. So this is that we are at. This bit is all about timing. Right? And this one is all about cost. Now, if you take the initial triangle we discussed, as I said, quality and scope can be interchanged. So we are now done with time planning. Okay, that's completed. We are going to look at cost and pricing today, and quality at a later stage. The scope we have done with as part of the charter. Right? So today let's focus on the cost aspects of a project. So let's talk a little bit about what is this cost. Now there are many projects are done with huge costs and they fail. Right? Now when a government does a project also, they get into a project, but unknowingly they incur a lot more cost because of bad planning. I'm going to play a video of few projects that has failed in the past, or failed in the sense, not failed actually, it's partly failed, but partly wasted money. Okay. Video over to that. So it's a video, just 5 minutes.
Abandoned, isolated, and useless. Nothing hurts more than spending huge amounts of precious money on mega projects, only for them to be left isolated or useless. Be it building an entire city for millions of people, only for it to remain empty, or spending $17 billion on a mining mega project, only for it to be never used. Let's have a look at some of the most useless mega projects in the world, and dive into the story behind their uselessness. Ryugyong Hotel, North Korea. This is the Hotel of Doom. Being referred to as the super skyscraper back in 1987, this pyramid-shaped hotel was supposed to be taller than 1,000 feet, with more than enough space for 3,000 rooms. However, it remains incomplete till date. Construction has stopped and resumed several times over the years, but it still remains helpless and exposed, decaying with time. Imagine having big dreams about the tallest hotel in the world, only for it to become the tallest unoccupied building in the world. The world's emptiest airport, Sri Lanka. The construction of Mathala Rajapaksa International Airport in Sri Lanka, a fully modern airport situated in the middle of a jungle, surrounded by the endless beauty the wildlife has to offer, was supposed to be a landmark for this region's progress. However, it turned out to be the emptiest airport in the world. So, where did it go wrong? It was the very location of Hambantota that became the reason for its failure. Having no resident population, and being surrounded only by fishing villages, it offered no attraction for tourists, and so it lives today with its failed fate. Arena da Amazonia. This $300 million World Cup stadium in Brazil is an almost abandoned site. After 4 years of construction, which even cost 3 workers their life, this stadium situated in the middle of Amazon remains unused, considering how difficult it is to travel to the location. Naypyidaw, Myanmar. This failure is much grander than others. Naypyidaw was built from scratch as the new capital of Myanmar. It is believed that this was done because Yangon, the present capital of Myanmar, had reached its infrastructural capacity, and a population of 7 billion will only increase in the coming years. However, despite investing $4 billion into this city over a span of several years, it doesn't even have 1 million residents. The capital remains practically empty and isolated. Interstate H3, Hawaii. Imagine driving on a breathtaking highway running through Hawaii. As charming as it sounds, in reality, this 26 kilometers long highway is rarely used and is often called the road to nowhere. To native Hawaiians, it doesn't matter that $50 million were spent per kilometer on the construction of Interstate H3, they continue to refuse using this highway for traveling. What do you think? Should government stop investing in such mega projects?
Okay, so the question is, should government stop such mega projects? First question. Second, why would they spend so much money on a project and then abandon it? You see Myanmar as an example, right? Huge sums of money. So where do you think government, first of all, why do you think government spends so much on projects? The cost, right? I mean, it's very high. So most of the time what happens is the government spends on projects that they think the country needs for the future. Right. Now, you and I don't have that vision. Now, we think about our company, how to grow our company from X to Y. That's all we don't think about how do we grow the country. It's the government's job to grow the country. Not only grow the country, is plan for the future. Right? Now, whose money are they spending? Our money, right? It's taxpayers' money. So They have to be very careful. So when they do projects like this and abandon it, and this is just a sample, there are hundreds of these examples I can give you, hundreds and hundreds of these examples where we have no ROI. There is no ROI. Right? But the governments do it for betterment of the country. Okay. So costing such projects and long term, we have to see how viable that is. So today we are going to look at costing projects as well as pricing of projects. Okay, that's what our topic is. So let me give you another example of a project that happened. Marvin. Right. So this project is called one of the largest project man-made structure. It's called the Panama Canal. You may have heard about it. You may have heard about the Suez Canal in Egypt. This is the Panama Canal. Now, Panama Canal is a huge project. It's bringing waters together. And it was the scope, if you want to call it, it is to reduce the journey of a ship from 25 days to half a day. That's the scope, from 25 days of the journey to half a day. Worthwhile, right? The project is worthwhile. But was it successful? It's what we want to look at. So, you see the background of it, the Panama Canal, is one of the largest structures humanly was done. The scope was to build a 82 kilometers waterway connecting two rivers and to reduce travel time from 25 days to 12 hours. That's the scope, 25 days to 12 hours. So huge savings. So the France, which started the project, 1881, and due to lack of issues, other confidentiality and confidence issue, mortality rate, that is the death of people were too high. 25,000 people died. Okay, so that's a huge death for a project. So they had to stop it. Then the United States looked at the project. Almost after 33 years of this project started at a cost of 375 million in 1904, which is today's term 8 billion. Just to give Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, is 1.5 billion. Right? So you can imagine the scale of this. So the plan was to complete the project and making cost of the crossing from to make it cheaper. Now, USA never recovered the cost of investment. They never recovered the cost of investment. So why would they do the project? Now, let's take an example in Sri Lanka. Hambantota Airport. When will they recover the cost? They will never recover. Your children will also be paying the tax for that. Right? So sometimes these projects are not done very well, not planned very well and executed, and cost overrun. Video done. So we'll see a video of this Panama crossing, and then we will discuss the case.
The Panama Canal is the most important waterway on Earth. It turns this journey into this, and it brings the United States closer to both Europe and Asia. The marvel that is the Panama Canal is both narrow and short, and yet every year, about 14,600 ships pass through its locks. Here is how. Canals have existed in some capacity for nearly all of human history. As traveling by boat is one of the most ancient modes of transport, it's no wonder that ancient engineers figured out a way to connect two bodies of water together, creating new, more efficient shipping routes. However, the construction of the Suez Canal in 1869 set a new precedent for what was possible. A pathway connecting two seas together. With the Mediterranean Sea and Red Sea now connected, governments throughout the West set their sights on connecting two even bigger bodies of water together, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. During the California gold rush of the mid-19th century, Panama was often used as a shortcut for shipping goods from New York to California. Ships would dock either on the Pacific or Atlantic side and transport their goods across what is now Panama. Eventually, a railroad was built to make the shortcut more efficient. The French had different plans, though. In 1881, work began on building a sea-level canal similar to Egypt's Suez Canal. However, a combination of poor planning and inefficient design led to France failing to make any meaningful headway into constructing a canal. After significant worker casualties due to illness, floods, and poor management, the U.S. took over construction in 1904. Chief Engineer John Frank Stevens took one look at the geography and instantly knew why the French had failed. A sea-level canal was simply not possible. Thus, work began on the creation of the world's then largest artificial lake, Gatun Lake. By damming the nearby Chagres River, engineers created the artificial lake to function as a water reservoir system, 85 feet above sea level. This would work in conjunction with a series of canal locks to raise and lower ships as needed as they passed through the canal. Further expansion projects would then ensue as the ship traffic passing through the canal steadily increased throughout the years. So how does the Panama Canal work? As a cargo boat nears the canal's approach channels from the sea, several tugboats come to greet it. The tugboats attach a tow line to the cargo ship and move them into alignment with the canal lock's narrow entrance. Once a cargo ship is firmly within a lock, a tugboat remains behind to keep it in place. The lock gate behind it then shuts, while the lock gate ahead gradually opens, displacing water at a steady pace, thus raising the ship so that it can then enter the next lock, where it will eventually join Gatun Lake. Ships are protected by rubber fenders installed along the lock's sides, preventing them from scraping or chafing as they pass through. They then cross Gatun Lake towards a different set of locks on the other side, where the process is repeated. It is crucial for this process to be gradual, as this keeps the water flowing at a manageable rate. The average amount of time it takes for a ship to pass through the Panama Canal is about 11 hours, with most of that time spent waiting for other ships to pass. As the canal's locks functioned as gates for ships to pass through, building additional locks was the first order of business when the Panama Canal was expanded during the late 2000s. As of 2021, the Panama Canal features 4 separate sets of canal locks for ships to pass through. The Gatun and Agua Clara locks, facing the Atlantic, and the Cacholi and Miraflores locks facing the Pacific. The original locks measured 110 feet wide and 1,050 feet long, and could fit ships up to 965 feet in length and 60 feet in beam. Ships built with specifications that would fit through the canal were dubbed Panamax-class ships. They could fit up to 5,000 standard shipping containers on board. While this may seem like a huge amount of cargo, this figure is dwarfed by the additional capacity granted by the canal's newer, bigger locks. With the construction of new locks, new Panamax or Neo-Panamax class ships could accommodate up to 13,000 containers. While the Panama Canal has yet to face a blockage similar to the Suez Canal's mishap earlier this year, maintenance has been an ongoing issue. The estimated annual cost to maintain it has been quoted to be as high as $350 million. Engineers are constantly fighting natural phenomena such as erosion and landslides just to keep the canal intact. Over its century of service, the Panama Canal has ferried an innumerable amount of cargo between its narrow straits. Chances are, many of the things you own have found themselves on a ship.
Okay, so you can see a project that was at scale. Why it failed? Simply for bad planning, right? Bad planning. Again, we come back to planning. Always it's down to bad planning. So let's just have a look at what happened here. So this particular case, you can see the French company started it. It went bankrupt. Investor lost confidence in the project. So then there is no funds. Major engineering problem and flooding, landslide, which they didn't predict. And high work mortality. So 25,000 people died and they said this is not good. That's to stop. Cost overrun, our biggest issue, which is what we are going to look at today. Bad planning and unforeseen event. So that is again back to our planning. Original scope change, including the lake was built. Lack of experience, leadership. Then the United States took over, completed another 10 years later using new technology. But USA government funded the project and they never, you see from here, USA never recovered the cost of investment. So that's why Mr. Trump is after the Panama Canal. He wants to now take over that. Where he's saying we paid for it, so it's ours. Right? So let them fight that out. So you can see a project of this nature, sometimes governments build, but they don't have a return. They don't expect a return, but they don't necessarily think short term. They think for next 100 years. We think for maybe next 5 or 10 years. So that's a big difference. And we will see some more examples as we go along. So let's just look at how do you price a project. So when you have to do a project, there are various ways you will have to fund it. The most cheapest and efficient way is what we call the equity finance. So any company with an equity financing method is always better. Why? Because there is no cost to the company. So what is equity finance? So let's say Cinnamon Life was built by John Keels. Cinnamon Life is a huge project. So how did they fund it? So they part funded it through equity finance, part through bank loans. So they raised rights issue and they collected money from the shareholders and they funded it through that. So there was no obligation. There was no obligation to pay interest. They just the shareholders expect dividends, and dividends can be anything, right? So equity finance is one of the best way to finance a project. Then comes the loan finance. So loan finance, of course, incurs the interest cost, right? So interest cost then keeps changing, fluctuate. You can't have fixed interest. Well, you can have, but that is at a very high rate, and you don't want. So loan finance is another way where they have to, if they have to finance a project, they will use loans from the banks. But banks are very tight to give loans. Then subsidized finance is government funded. So basically government will fund some of the subsidized. So for example, a highway, or you are doing a, Katnayaka-Colombo highway. So partly funded by Chinese, partly by the government. So government can fund it as well. There could be NGO type of funding as well, right? So that is the other donor funded. Then we have public-private partnership, which I will talk about later in other slides. Donor funded is obviously the best way, free of charge. It's like your father or mother building a house for you. We are all happy with that model, right? So we don't have to pay anything. Friendship funded, that's BMICH is an example in Sri Lanka. And the retained profit funded. So if you have a lot of profit saved, you can use that to fund projects. And then R&D budgeted funded, right? So you budget for something and you. So there are various, these are just samples, various ways you can fund a project, right? And then the important thing to think about is what is the cost behind it? It's easy to fund, but what is the cost behind it? So that's what we need to understand. So how do you price it? What are the aspects you need to consider when pricing or funding a project? So the methodologies that is used are multiple ways. So the first one is what we call activity-based or WBS funding. WBS pricing. So the costing is through WBS. What is WBS? WBS is all the activities that we want. And but it must have a time and a cost. If there's a time and cost, then that goes into the project plan in our Gantt chart. So WBS funding means if you have each activity, if you remember, each activity we listed had a time and a cost attached to it. Then it becomes, we know the total of all that, we know the time, and total of all that, we will know the cost. Right? So that is one way of doing it, and that's the most accurate way of doing it. So it's start from basic. But if you miss an activity, then it's going to cost you a little bit more. Then analogous estimate, right? So that is a standard things we do. So for example, say, PIM, MBA or whatever, right? Now we can't charge you, let's say, I don't know, 6 lakhs or whatever that you will pay, 7 lakhs. We can't suddenly next year say is 1 million. We can't. We can't just shoot the price up. So we have to maybe say, okay, 10% more or 15%. We can't put for 30, 40%, nobody will come. So that is inflationary adjustment. So the cost remains the same. Inflationary adjustment for the next year. That's it. Then you get the cost plus estimate, which I will talk about in the pricing method, where everything you buy, you get a percentage on top of it. Right? So that's the cost plus pricing. I will discuss that under pricing. Zero-based budgeting is very similar to WBS. So if you're doing a budget, you will do similar to WBS activity. Then determine resource costs. So this is normally used in IT projects or labor related. So for example, if IT project is going to be 300 hours, this project is going to be 300 hours. Then we know number of resources required. So we will say 300 hours into so many people into per hour rate, $10 an hour or whatever that. So it's very easy to calculate a project of that nature where number of hours and resources are determined. Then parametric estimate is using an average cost. Do you know what's the average cost of building a house today in Sri Lanka? Anybody? No idea? Why did you all come? You could have come online. So today in Sri Lanka, if you're going to build a house, it's 15,000 rupees a square feet. Right? Let's say your house is 5,000 square feet. Right? That's your house. Then 15 million or whatever that number is. Right? So it's 15,000 a square feet. So if we are building a larger house, then it's 15,000 into the larger house. So it's easy to estimate. But do you know what it was 5 years ago? To build a house in Sri Lanka 5 years ago? It's 5,000 rupees. Only 5,000 rupees. So if you built a house 5 years ago, you would have spent only 5,000 square feet. Today you are going to spend 15,000. So just imagine you are doing a project, large project. You started 5 years ago and you are on the fifth or sixth year. Price has shot up 3 times. How do you budget for that? Difficult task. Right? So when you come to estimations, it's important to understand, which next slide I will talk about, the factors to consider. Right. Then vendor bid estimate. So if you don't know the price of a project, you normally call for tenders. Then you have a rough idea of what the price might be. Right. So then he gives you a rough idea, okay, this is the range. Like we did in the Singaraja project. We had the high risk, low price, high price, low risk. Right. Then scenario-based costing using technology to price it, various scenarios. And then obviously long-term projects are year-on-year budgeted, right? So we need to keep revising the budget. Okay, so these are some of the costing techniques, not the only one. Okay, so it's just some of them. Now, the factors to consider when you are costing, that is very important. So I have given only some of them here. Now, for example, if you look at the inflation. Now, when you are doing a pricing for 5-year project, how do you price inflation? Can you tell me inflation today is what? Sri Lanka. What's the inflation today? 3. Yeah, it's about 2 to 3%. Okay, that's the inflation rate. Now, can you tell me the inflation next year? Year after? So how do you price? Difficult. So we go to the central bank report. We get a 5-year forecast, which we all know is wrong. Right? Last year, they forecasted 5.5% growth, and we grew at 2% or 2.5%. Year before, we forecasted 4.5%, we grew at 1%. Right? So all these top central bank guys, they can't get it right. Right? So inflationary adjustment is a huge problem when you do a long-term project in an unstable country. You do a pricing in Dubai. I can tell you 5 years, same inflation. Doesn't change. Right? Okay. So it's difficult to price that in. So you need to put the risk factor in there. Right? Then exchange rate. Now we all know exchange rate was X. Just 3 months ago, it was 300 rupees. 3 months later, it's 311 rupees. Within 3 months. You know what? I spoke to the deputy governor, central bank, who happened to be one of our students last year. I asked her, what do you think the exchange rate is going to be in March? Not next March, this 1 month later. That's all I asked her, because I wanted to price it for something. She said, sir, your guess is as good as mine. She can't give a rate. Because central bank is buying so much dollars in the market to keep the exchange rate down. They are printing money, which is going to kick up the interest rate and inflation. Right? So these are challenges we are going to face. Right? So when you're pricing, how do you price it? Tough task in Sri Lanka. But if you take a US versus UK exchange, the FX, or what they call as spot rates between US and UK, is always 1.3. Last 5 years, it has been 1.3. Right? Interest rate, our biggest problem. So when you're pricing something, and especially if you're borrowing from a bank to fund a project, how do you take interest rate into calculation? So today, base rate, it was 7.75. That is the PLR. Okay, put 2% more, let's say 10, you can price at 10%. Now in Sri Lanka, is price going to, next year, 12 months later, is interest rate going to go up or down? What do you think? Interest rate is going to go up or down? It's going to go up. How do I know that? You look at banks' bonds, 10-year bond, 5-year bond. Look at the rates. Look at a 5-year bond that was 1 month ago, and look at a 5-year bond 1 month later. If the rate has gone up, you know the interest rate is going to go up, because they predict the rates to move up. So if you look at DFCC, I was looking at yesterday, their debentures are going at 12%, which means today is 7.75%. Right? Today, 7.75% is the borrowing rate, bank's borrowing rate. Why would they pay me 12%? If I put some money in the debenture, well, I studied debenture, right? Right. If I put money into the FCC, they're giving me 12%. Why would they give me 5% more? There's a 5-year bond, huh? Because they know in 5 years' time, it's going to be beyond 12%. So hence, they are borrowing at a very high rate. Right? So these are things that you need to be aware when you're pricing, how to bring in the factors and how to predict the future. Okay? Right. The other things to consider are risk factors. So if you think there is a risk in the project, then you need to bring a factor in for risk. How much do I bring in? Right? Remember, in projects, there is nothing called, and if accountants are here, they will tell me this. There is, when you are doing a budget, there is nothing called miscellaneous expenses. Either is a fixed, you can call it some expenses, that's all right. but it has to be an expense, not miscellaneous expense, unknown. We can't have that. Same here, you can't have an unknown factor, but you can have a risk factor. Okay, right. Then global, local economic factors, right? Like what Sri Lanka has been through, those affect the projects. Cash flow, which I will look at it in a minute, explain that. Legal aspects. So if there's a risk cross-country, then you need to factor that in. Political aspects, we have seen that, enough of that, the risk of political aspects. Environmental, we discussed last time, how the pricing needs to include extra for environmental. Competitor pricing, how they will price, you wouldn't know. They will always undercut you, right? And so on. So these are some of the factors you need to consider when pricing. There are a lot more things, but some of the factors you will need to consider when doing a pricing, right? Here is a simple business case. Okay. What we are saying is, we are launching a product, 100 units manufactured. Marketing cost 10,000, manufacturing 10,000, raw material, personal cost 10,000, PR cost. Right? So the total cost of this product is $40,000. Manufacture 100 units, cost per product is $400. We put 10% on that, selling price as $440. So the company makes $4,000. Very simple number, right? Now, the company has launched the product and they are marked it, retail marked price at $440. Now, a month later, the oil price goes up. Nothing to do with this product. Oil price goes up. So your cost of material goes up by 50%. Only one item. So now your new cost is 45,000. Per unit cost now is 450. Selling price 440. Because your market has 440. You can't put two products in the market with two different prices. I presume you all know that, right? Especially if you put RPA on it, it has to be single price, so you have to withdraw the products. That's why they put buy one, get one free to get rid of those things, right? Now, what happens if you do that? Company is running at a loss just 1 month later. So this pricing is very sensitive and you need to get it. Same with projects. So if you're doing a project, these things happen. And you can't always say, oh, I'll put more money. I'll price it so high, so I have enough buffer. You won't get the project. You won't get it passed. So it has to be right price. So I'll give you a simple example that's called Channel Tunnel. A Channel Tunnel is a project between UK and Europe, or UK and France. So their estimated was 5 billion. The price was 5 billion for approval, but actual cost was 10 billion. They already knew that. Why would they go for approval for 5 billion and not 10? So Channel Tunnel this is UK side, this is France, river, water. So they dug a tunnel underneath it and connected the France through the tunnels. So there are two tunnels. Now this was because UK was the only island along other than the rest of the Europe. So Europe, 20 countries were together. UK was isolated. So they wanted to connect, because currently it was doing through ferry, because if it's bad weather, ferries can't move between the waters. Right? So they wanted to have a safer, faster, cheaper way of doing it. Right? So why would this is a government private sector project? Eventually it was run by a private company. Why would they put a 5 billion for approval when they know it's going to be 10 billion? What's the purpose? Why don't they just put 10 billion? I mean, what's wrong with it? Whose money is it? People's money. If you're spending people's money and you go and say, I'm spending so much money on a project which has no ROI, will they approve it? There'll be strikes. People will be on the road. They won't allow it. Does any government in the world send out a survey before they do a project saying, should we do this or not? They don't. They don't even ask you. It's your money though. Your tax money. They don't ask you. They just do it. Right? So government sometimes does projects that we can't see the future. They think they can see the future. So that is their interest to make it better for us. So if you're building a highway between here and the airport, if they ask you, I don't know, some will say yes, some will say no. But now we all use it. Goal highway, we all use it. Right. So it depends. So if Mattala Airport, if you ask, should we build a Mattala Airport, maybe some people will say no. Right. So government doesn't necessarily waste money, or some governments do. They look for the future, right? Which we don't understand. Okay, right. So let's look at cash flow. That's what today's topic is all about. So as you can see here, this is a simple diagram of planned cash, blue line, versus actual cash requirement. So what is happening here is blue is a budgeted cost, which what we call a cost estimate. But the actual cost is like this. So they're obviously going above the budget. Right. Now you have the milestones at the bottom and the funding requirements on the top. So this curve graph is directly proportionate to the PLC. Right. That is project life cycle. Right. Time. That's why it has that shape where at some point it peaks. Now, your planned value at any given time, let's take milestone 2. Now, milestone 2, the planned cost is here. Let's call it 50 million. And that is the funding requirement. That's what I asked the bank. Stage 2, I want so much money. Now, at milestone 2, the contractor come and say, I need so much money because I have finished extra work. So this gap here needs to be funded. So the planned value, we spoke to the bank and we have money here, but the same at the given time, fixed time, he is asking for more money. He is saying, I have spent more money, give me the money or I'm going to stop the project. So now you are in a fix. You have to find this gap. You have to fill this gap. Bank may say, okay, no, we can't give you. Yeah, we haven't budgeted for it. Or bank say, we will give you, but interest rate is so much. So you are now incurring interest rate faster, much before you planned. At least 3 months before. So your project cost then start going up. Sometimes it's good news also. That means they are trying to finish the project faster. So maybe they are going fast, therefore they are asking more money. That's possible. I'm not saying no. But this is the issue. So this means the project is going to overrun with the cost. Right. So if we take that and put it into context, it's a project life cycle. So the plan is green. Something goes wrong, some disruption gets pushed. So now what has happened is the time has got extended. Time has got extended means cost will get extended as well. That's given. Okay. So to predict the cost and to plan, we use a method called earned value. Now, earned value is a very complex methodology. Right? There's a lot of formulas that comes into play. The good news about earned value is that it is not in your exam paper. It is not something I test because it's so complex. If you understand, you please teach me. Right? So earned value is a method we use to predict the future. Right? What is required. So let's just have a look at some of these formulas. You don't need to know, memorize, nothing, nothing you need to worry about. You can just listen to me. So there are several formulas that we use to calculate earned value or earned value and the prediction of the future. So if you take the same graph as an example, the orange is the budgeted cost. We are all clear on that. So orange is the budgeted cost. Now at any given time, which is, let's say, halfway in the project, the contractor, so this is a planned cost, we call it PV. The contractor is a blue line. He comes and says at any given time, I need so much money. Okay, fine. So he says, actually, I have spent a lot of money. I'm at the same time, you may have planned here, but I have spent no money. Now give me more money. But earned value says, which is the green line, it says, hold on, let me do a calculation and tell you where you are. And it does the calculation and says, you are spent much less. You are not even anywhere near my budget, let alone you are submitting bills. Your value is this, not this. So I'm not going to pay you. Right? How do we calculate that? That's what we are going to look at. Right. Now, when you just listen to me, no need to write anything. I'll give you a simple example, very basic example for you to understand. So let's say there is a project, right? There is a contractor signed. So the project is very simple. Goldface Green says, plant 10 trees for me, palm trees, and I will give you $1 for a tree, and do it in 10 days. Okay. So contract value, $10 total. Has to be done in 10 days. Project, 10 plants, plant, and you earn $1 per planted plant. 10 days is the project time. $10 is the project cost. Has to plant 10 trees. Every tree you plant and show me every day, I will give you $1. So 10 days, you finish your 10 plants. So that is the scope. So they start and they are supposed to complete it in 10 days. Now, what do contractors do? Contractors are smart people. They always find cheap way of doing it or faster way of doing it. So they want to earn quickly. So in this case, the contract is signed to plant 10 trees, 10 days. The contractor is a smart guy. He says he starts the work. Day one, he doesn't bring any plants. He should have planted day one plant. He doesn't do it. Otherwise, he has to hire every day the digger. He doesn't want to hire diggers every day because it costs him 10 days, 10 times. He only hires for the first day. He brings a digger and digs the 10 holes. That's it. He digs the 10 holes. Now the inspector comes and says, hey, you should have planted one tree. You're entitled to $1 day one. You haven't done any work. I'm not going to pay you. Okay, fine. He just does that. Day two, he goes and brings all the trees, all 10 trees to the site. Otherwise, every day one tree means tractor cost is there 10 times. He's a smart guy. He goes one shot, bring all the tree. Now he has got the 10 holes dug. He has got the 10 trees on the site. And the story goes on. So, day 6 comes. Now, day 6, how many he should have planted? 6. So that is planned. Planned value 6 trees. But day 6, actual how many years planted? Years planted only 3. Day 6. So this is as for the 6th day. So 6th day, he has planted only 3, which is the actual. He should have planted 6. It's the planned one. So he is entitled to day 6, $6. On day 6, he can only claim $3. You understood? Right. Now that is what the situation is. Day 6, he dies. Man gone. Now his widow wife comes and says, my husband had a contract with you, give me the $10. Give me the $10. Question to you. How much will you pay him? Her. How much will you pay her? So day 6, he should have earned $6. He has only planted 3. He is entitled to 3. How much will you pay the widow? Don't put emotional factors and ayo. Anybody? There's only about what, 20 people here, or maybe 10, 15 people. There's only 10 answers. It's either $1 or all the way to $10. It's 1 to 10. Sorry, how much? $3. Okay. We have one answer, $3. So 9 more answers left. Hmm? 0. Okay. 8. He hasn't completed the project. That I agree. He hasn't completed the project. But he has done some work. So minimum he is entitled is $3. He is entitled to that. That's no question because the contract said every plant you plant, I will pay you $1. So I have done 3. Whether 6 days, 9 days, I have done 3. I am entitled to $3. So what does earn value say? Earn value says, okay, yes, you are right. You have planted $3, 3 plants. You are entitled to that. You have earned that. Correct. However, even though it's the 6th day, you should have earned $6. I look at it and say, hey, listen, you have done the hard part. You have dug all the holes. That is all now ready. You have even done the hard part of bringing the tree. All 10 trees are here. Now I just need to plant. So earned value says, what is the requirement? Right? What is the requirement to complete this project? Now you're on the 6th day. How much does it take to finish this project? Because you have already incurred the cost here, which is your trees and your dug holes, I may need only $3 to finish the job. Now we are not talking about number of trees. We are not talking about that. We are talking about how much money do I need to complete this project. Therefore, the site is worth. The word is worth. Therefore, if I need $3 to complete the project, if I were to sell this site today, the site is worth $7. The site has incurred $7 worth of cost so far because you have the trees, you have the holes, you have the XYZ worth. So I need $3 extra to finish the job. So earn value will say, therefore, pay $7. Not 3, not even 6. but $7. That is what it says. What is the site worth and what is required to complete the job. Right. So this is the fundamentals of it. Of course, it's a lot more complicated than that. So let me just run through some examples to explain that to you. Right. So if you take the S curve, the same S curve. Now, what does it say is that, so you have the planned value, which is fine. We are happy with that. You have the actual value at any given time. We look at actual, his submission is here. But earned value says, nope, you are here. By the way, it can be other way around, where the actual value can be down and earned value can be higher, like in the case this. Right? So, actual value is here. So, what does the calculation go on to do? The index goes on to do. It does a prediction. So, what does it predict? It predicts this project at this stage is here, understood. Now, it will predict this project is go on and going to finish here. Therefore, your budget is going to be so much excess. You better find extra money here. It will also predict it is going to get extended. So you better get ready for the project delays. So that's the advantage of this calculation. So when you do a project, halfway through the project, you can calculate how much more money is required to complete this project and when will this project finish. The timing. It's not 100% accurate, but it gives you a good indication. So that's what this calculation is all about in a project. Okay, as I said, you don't need to know this, but I'm just telling you this, right? We look at some examples. So don't worry about these formulas, but I'm just telling you. So we have two different aspects. One is a cost aspect, in this case, schedule aspect and a cost aspect. Schedule means time. So time is schedule variance, time variance, is earned value minus the present value. And cost variance, earned value minus actual value. So EV, CV and SV are calculated through these two formulas. And in a minute, we will do an example. Right. Then you go on to calculate what we call the schedule price, schedule performance index, SPI, and cost performance index, which is CPI. Now, these two are calculated by earned value divided by the present planned value. CPI is earned value divided by the actual cost. Right? These are the simple formulas. There are 8 formulas. You don't need to know any of them. I'm just telling you. Once you calculate the CPI and SPI, it gives you an indication where you are. So if the SPI, which is a time, is less than 1, and if the cost index, which is CPI, is less than 1, you are here. That means the project is behind schedule and is going to be over budget. Ideally, you want the SPI and CPI to be 1, which means you're on schedule for your time, you are on schedule for your cost. However, more positive, if the SPI and CPI are greater than 1, then you are ahead of schedule and you will be under budget. You will finish faster and you won't spend as much as you budgeted. So that's what this tells you. Right. Now, how do we calculate this? Let's do an example. So it's some more formulas that we use for forecasting as well. So you put all that formula into a graph. You see the blue line is a planned one. Then you do the actual cost. It tells you we are at a given time here. Your earned value tell at given time here. You use that prediction. It tells you, earned value tells you you will finish here. The contractor's value says you will finish here. And the actual value says you will finish here. So this is the dilemma. So the actual cost is here, earned value is there, and contractor is saying, no, we are going to cost more. So we will just see how the earned value versus present value versus actual cost versus the budgeted actual cost is going to give us the predicted number. So here is an example. Right? You can listen to me and then write it down. I will give you time. So in this one, just focus on the top part. Don't worry about the others. The example is the project budgeted cost is $4,000, $400,000. Right? $400,000 is the budgeted cost. The project timeline is 4 months. So they are saying roughly $100,000 a month is the budgeted cost. So $400,000, and it's supposed to finish in 4 months. Right. If we take a situation at any given time, and this case we are taking at the third month. We're taking at the third month. The 4-month project we are taking at the third month. And my boss is asking, where are we? What's going to happen? Now, I to date spent cost, the contractor comes and says, I have spent 200. He should have spent, if it's 3 months, how much he should have spent? 300. But he is saying, I have spent 200. And work completed as per my calculation is 100. That's the earned value part. My calculation is 100. So I am saying earned value is 100. You are saying you have spent 200. I am saying you should have spent 300 because you're on the third month. But the project is 400. That's the situation. Now let's put this into the formulas. So if you put that into the formulas, earned value we know is 100. That's what we know. Actual cost he submitted is 200, which is fine. That is his submission. Planned value, that how much he should have spent is 300 because it's in the third month. He should have been 300, but he is only at 200. We already know he is in trouble. Then cost variance, which is calculated earlier formula you saw. Cost variance is earned value minus actual cost, which is in this case is 100 is earned value. Actual cost is submitted at 200. So it's minus 100. Schedule variance, that is time variance. Earned value minus planned value. So earned value we know is 100. Planned value is how much he should have claimed by now. He is claiming 200, but he should have claimed 300. So it's minus 200. Fine. Now the two index, the CPI and SPI. The cost index says earned value divided by actual cost. So earned value is 100, actual cost is 200, but he has claimed. So that comes to 0.5, positive number. Schedule variance, earned value divided by planned value, 100 divided by 300, he should have claimed. So the index is positive, 0.33. Now we have done all the calculation. Now let's use prediction, forecasting. So what he says is revised duration. How do you calculate the future? Original schedule divided by the SPI index. So original schedule is 4 months. Divided by 0.33 will give you 12 months. Now this project which was planned for 4 months is going to take 12 months. Second, revised budget. How do you predict the budget? Original cost divided by the CPI index, which in this case is 0.5. So you took the 400,000 original, divided by 0.5, it gives you 800. So now this tells you this 4 months project, $400,000 project is going to finish at $800,000, double the cost, and going to take total 12 months, i.e. 9 months, 8 months more. So that's what the predictive tool tells you. It's just a rough estimate. I'm not saying it is right, wrong. It's fairly good estimate. I'm saying this is what we use in real life also. It's not something made up. Gives you a good indicator. It could be 11 months, it could be 13 months, all that is fine. But it tells you where you are in your project. So now your problem is, how do I find extra $400,000? Because you budgeted for 400. Now you need to find another 400. Not only that, your project is now 8 months more. You have to wait. You take these two numbers, you put it into the index. So you know the CPI was 0.5. So that means CPI is less than 1. You know the SPI was 0.33. That means SPI is less than 1. That means if you take this like this, you are behind schedule and you are over budget. Ideally, you want to be here, where CPI and SPI is equal to 1. If you are anything above that, you should be very happy. Okay. So this is what we use in real life. Now, how do I, let me show you the real life example. This is an extract of earned value calculation. This is what we use. So here the activities are there. The base cost, which is your fundamental cost plan. Actual cost, which is what is submitted. Earned value and present value or planned value. This is present, how much is completed, SV and CV index and the CPI index. It all calculates for you. Right. Now, if you look at the graph here, the middle graph is the planned value, actual, we have planned. This one here is the submission or actual cost incurred. This one is the earned value number. So what it tells you is that if you look at it down here, the schedule variance is green. That means it tells me all these activities are on time, except for this one. This may have a delay. But it tells me your activities timing is okay, but your cost is short, it's in red. So you may even finish the project on time, but at a higher cost. How is that possible? How does a project finish on time, but your cost is high? What have you done to it? You have put a lot of resources, right? You have accelerated. So your cost goes up. Always remember the triangle. Time, cost, quality, right? Your cost goes up because you are trying to finish faster. You're on track. Okay, right. You can forget everything I said. It was just for your information, but this is, you need to understand what is earned value and such thing exist. Right. Let's move on. Any questions? Moment I say no exam, forget the questions, right? Right. Okay, fine. So, next part of the problem is the cost overrun. Yes, cost has overrun. Who pays for it? Right? Who pays for a cost overrun? If the cost is overrunning, who pays for it?
Client or contractor,
Sorry, client, is it?
or the contractor, depending on whose fault is it.
There are only two people. No? So either the client has to pay for it or the contractor has to pay for it. Government is not going to come and rescue you. Right? So how do you work out who pays for it? Is what we want to look at. So we use something called the window analysis. Right? So window analysis says, so all of you know, we looked at the Gantt chart. All of you know Gantt chart. I put a simple one here. So this is the planned Gantt chart. This is what we plan and we want to finish here. This is a planned finish, the red line. So as the project progresses, the owner some halfway comes and says, look, I have run out of money. I can't pay you for next 1 month. Can you come back later? and continue the project, I will give you the money. The contractor says, I can't continue without money. I will move out. When you are ready, you call me. So owner says, okay. The contractor moves and he has gone to do some other project. He's not going to wait for a month for this guy to call, right? He's doing some other project. Afterward, this guy calls, now I'm ready, come. So he comes. Now the project starts and carries on. Now this part here, owner caused the delay because he didn't pay. He's the one who said, right? So the project gets extended further. Plan was here, but the project got extended. Now this part, unfortunately, owner has to pay. He delayed it. Very simple case. Now, on the other side, the construction is going on. There is a strike on the contractor's staff. Labor is on strike. Now, who has to pay for it? Contractor has to pay. There's no question. So, there is a delay, no question about that. It has gone beyond the red line. But this part here, where the contractor strike happened, now gets extended. So, that part, the contractor has to pay. Now that is clear. So this is a very straightforward case. Now comes the problem case. November, floods came. This is a real example, happened to me. Floods came and project was stopped for 1 month. We all had, the country came to a standstill, right? Now 1 month delay. The material that was gone into the project has also got damaged. Whatever you put there. Now that all has to be taken out. New material have to put. Who pays for it? Again, only two choices. There's no third choice. Is it the contractor or the owner? Share it. Okay, one option is share it. Okay. And that can be even some sort of percentage. Doesn't have to be 50-50, maybe some percentage of sharing. Okay, possible. You all had your lunch? Not yet. Breakfast and straight here. You should come online, like our friends here.
Insurance?
Okay, I will, insurance, yes. I will come to talk about insurance in a minute. Possible, correct. So now you have a problem. You have a dilemma. Right? Now, somebody has to pay for it. Project cost has gone up. Bank is saying, hold on, your project cost was so much. This bit I can't give you because it's too risky for me now. Your project is above budget. Somebody has to bail the situation. So in this situation, like you said, possibly they will negotiate something. Or what they call God's Act. Or any lawyers here? No. Okay. They have in the contract something called force majeure. Right? Which means event that is beyond you. That has happened. Right? Then, if that's the case, owner has to pay. Event that is beyond you. God said. Right. Now let me come back to the whoever said insurance. Now, I was doing a project in Puttalam. Okay. Doing a project in Puttalam. And we were doing this construction. And this rain happened. Floods from wherever, Matale or Kandy or whatever. The what do you call it? The river burst and the floods hit the project. It was by a seaside. Everything got washed out. Just like a tsunami, everything got washed out. Right. So this project now we had to start, not all over again, but we had to start the cleaning process. And then whatever got washed off, we had to replace, and all those things. The generators were there, machines were there, all went to the river, onto the sea. You can't go and collect it and go. Now I call the insurance say this has happened, now come and inspect and tell us. The insurance company comes. Anybody from insurance here? Dirty buggers, right? They will not pay you anything. So the insurance company comes, looks at it and say, yeah, it has damage. I can see the picture and all those things. They go back. They write a mail, sorry, we can't pay your claim. Said, I paid for insurance, why can't you pay? I have insured for floods, by the way. Floods insured. So the argument, justification by the insurance company is that if the rain has fallen on you for Topaputalam and flooded, I will pay you. This rain came from somewhere and flooded you, therefore we are not covered. So the rain has to be on top of your building and the flood has to come from that rain. What do I do? Apparently that is a condition in the insurance. Now who is going to read all that? So the answer to whoever asked that question, insurance, yes, possible, but not always. Okay. So these are the problems that a project faces. Now you may not have planned for this. You may not have priced for it. And when it comes to the sharing the costs, now your profits are wiped out as a contractor. And the owner says, my cost has gone up, I'm paying more for this. No fault of anybody. So these are challenges we face in real life. Okay. So when it comes to calculating who is at fault, we use something called window analysis to calculate how many days does the owner needs to pay, how many days the contractor needs to pay, how many days one else needs to pay, and so on. Okay, right. So this is window analysis. Let's move on. Project evaluation. Now, Dr. Ravi has told me you all are expert on this subject. So don't think I don't talk to Dr. Ravi, this fellow doesn't know anything. He has said you all are all expert. He has taught you very nicely the calculations. So I'm going to test you today. And then I will give feedback to Dr. Ravi. I am going to talk to you from a project perspective. What are the things we look for when you do an analysis? So we have two areas. One is a not discounted and discounted factors. For our purposes, we need to worry about discounted factors. We are not interested in non-discounted. Okay, it means nothing for our projects. So all of you know about payback period, which is not discounted. So it's a very straightforward calculation. IRR, it's a good calculation, but gives you a percentage. What we use is something called the discounted cash flow. It's a very accurate estimate for a project, as well as this is globally used for long-term project, 2 years or more. Otherwise, it's not accurate. So this particular chart, this question was in the last exam, I think. I asked this question. Payback. What is the difference between the three methods? So payback period, the biggest issue is it doesn't take time value of money. That is the issue. All of you know that. IRR gives you a percentage, not the value. So we are interested in NPV, which takes the time value of money and as well as gives you the right prediction. Now, what is the disadvantage of NPV? Let's say you're doing a 10-year project. So Ravi would have done discounted rates, inflow, outflow, all those wonderful mathematical stuff, right? And all of you came up with the same answer. In project, you don't come up with the same answer. Ravi says interest rate discounted 10% for 5 years. What's wrong with that? Now I have taken you through the problems. What is wrong with interest rate for 5 years at 10%?
Interest rate changes over the time.
Every month in Sri Lanka, right? Every year is going to change. First problem. Second problem, he puts a sale value at the end. What do you scrap value, right? You all call it, right? Scrap value. You have a house. Tell me the value of it in 5 years' time. You are doing a project. Tell me the value of this project in 5 years' time. If you want to sell it. Rubbish. Your value as good as not value. It could be 3 million, it could be 10 million, it could be 100 million. How would you know? Just put a number. So these are some of the challenges you face. Now, for example, even if you income versus outflow, you take the same value. No salary increase, nothing increases. So you need to be careful when you are doing a NPV in a project, because every single factor changes. Okay, right. So let's talk a little bit about NPV in a project perspective. So you know the discounted factors, you know how to calculate. I'm not talking about the calculation itself, which we will do in a minute. What matters in a project is this line here. The fixed cost and sunk cost are not considered. What do I mean by that? Is that fixed cost. Now, for example, your chairman's salary is a fixed cost. Whether this project goes ahead or not, Krish Balendra, the chairman of John Keel's, his salary will go. Nothing to do with your project. They don't put a portion of that into this. Whether you go ahead with the project or not, that is fixed. So no point considering that. However, if it's a project manager's salary, must consider, because he or she is directly involved. Second, sunk cost. Sunk cost is something that obviously you have incurred that is now too late to bring to the project. Let's say they are doing a project. 5 years ago, they did the environmental analysis, whether which project should go ahead. Now that you have paid the bill, finish, that report is there. Now, 5 years later, you look at it to start this project. Now, whether you start this project or not, that is already paid, sunk cost. No point bringing that into the project cost. So there are costs that you will take, there are costs that you wouldn't take. If you hire a consultant to advise you during the project, that will come into the, because it's part of the project. Okay. So we use two methods. One is this formula method. The other one is a tabular method. Right. So formula is also correct, which is also you can calculate. Right. Or you can use the discounted table, which will be given in the exam. And then you can calculate the discounted factor. Now, in the exam, please put a red mark and keep it, 25 marks. In the exam, this value will be very close to 0. Why? Any small error you make will flip the number. So your recommendation will be wrong. And how do you get it wrong? If you take the discounted factor, some people for the laziness take only 2 figures. They don't take 4 figures. If I want you to take 2 figures, I would have given this in 2 figures. Why am I giving you 4 figures? Some people, because they are so rushed in the last minute, they take only the 2 numbers. And that will change this. That's how sensitive NPV is. Okay, right. I'm going to give you an example to do 10 minutes and then we will discuss. Okay, and I want you, all of you, to get it right because Ravi said you all are masters at it. Right. The cash flow or discounted cash flow, why it gives you the wrong answer is if you don't take the discounted factor, as you know, it will say you are always going to get the same value, the return. But if you discount it, at some point it will cross the zero. So when you keep a board paper, you are misleading the board. Okay? Because it's at some point this project is going to hit zero. The cumulative figure, on the other hand, the chairman, if you only give the blue figure, he'll be very happy because it will go forever, the rest of his life, it will keep going up. He'll be very happy. But the CFO will look at it and say, no, it is going to taper off and it's going to be like this. So chairman is thinking it's going like this. CFO saying, no, go like this. So can mislead the board. That's why it's very important to analyze this properly. Okay, right. Can you do this question? Very simple question. It's in your notes as well. You don't need to write anything down. And we'll just put for 2 minutes, I'll put the discounted factor for, I think it's 10%, yeah. If you need to copy down 10% discounted factor. Anyone needs any help, I can come around and help you. Whatever it is, please get it right. Otherwise, I'll complain to Ravi, that's all. Okay, just put the question back. Okay, all done. What's the number? Correct. Correct. Okay, all done. All right, let's quickly run through it. Okay, so here outflow, inflow, net, 10% DCF, and present value. So let's take first year 0. Outflow is 300 investment, 300K. Inflow nothing. Net is 300K. 1.0, 300K. Okay. Year 2. Sorry, year 1. Outflow is generate 50,000. Okay, so inflow is 50. Outflow is 25. Net is 50. Sorry. Net is 25. Okay. Yeah. I think this factor is 0.909, is it? Something like that. Whatever that works out to be. Okay. A positive figure. Okay, good. So we go down all the way up to 10 years. The 25 all the way up to 25. 50 all the way up to 50. No change. Only thing on the 10th year, there is a residual value or scrap value, whatever all the words we use, is 200,000. So there is an inflow of 200,000. So this will be 250. Net that off. So you'll get 225 positive. Whatever the factor that is there, you should get minus 69K. Okay. Shouldn't be difficult. Now, who thinks they can't do it? You can't do it. Tell me.
I would reject the investment, sir, because of the NPV is less than 0.
That's right. So this is minus. So then we will not go ahead with the investment, reject it. Right. Now, so I saw some of you doing it this way, the tabular method or tabular method. Some of you use the formula to the power n 69k minus. Both are correct. Only difference is that the number of marks. This one is 10 out of 10. This one, 1 out of 10. Same answer. Why am I giving 1 there and 10 here? Same answer. The answer is correct. Perfect. Nothing wrong. Read the question. Calculate the present value for each year. Present value for each year. But people write emails, sir, I got the same answer as my friend, you gave 10, I got 1. So what can I do? If you don't read the answer, there's nothing I can do. You can't read the question and answer properly, what can I do? So if you are ever not sure, always use the tabular method. You won't go wrong. Tabular method, you won't go wrong. At least out of the 10, you got 3 right, at least you get 3 marks. Okay? Comfortable? Please mark in red and keep NPV. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Contract law. So I'm not going to teach you law because I think that you all have been tortured enough in year 1. First term, I think Harsha or somebody would have done it. I'm only going to talk about contract law. Why contract law? Contract law is what is important for a project. And I'm only going to talk about key aspects that you need to watch out for. That's all. I'm not going to teach you this and that. Okay? Right. So what is contract law? So for a contract to be valid, there are certain aspects, because all projects have a contract. All projects will have a contract. There's no project without a contract. Right? And we look at the forms of contract. So for a contract, there are 3 R's. There will be some rules defined. There's a risk element to it, which will be priced, and a relationship, 2 or more parties. So contract is a bargain. It's a risk element, and it has certain exchange of money. Now, requirements in a contract law are capacity of the both parties involved, for both or more parties. Legality, the purpose of it. Certainty, that it will be the right deal. Consideration for the price, the risk, and offer and acceptance. There has to be an offer and acceptance. You all know about offer and acceptance anyway, so that's fine. So, for a project contract, there are certain elements that we need to be mindful. So, as I said, even a project manager must know law. Remember, we spoke about multi-discipline. So, in a project, offer and acceptance is fine. That's the easy part. Intention, a legal relationship must exist. Lawful consideration. What do I mean by lawful consideration? Is that it has to be valid. So you can't have certain clauses into it, right? Capacity of the parties, whether they are able to deliver. Free and genuine. Now, what do I mean by free and genuine? Is when you're signing a contract, when you're signing something, you can't put certain rules. So, for example, in Sri Lanka, if you are let's say you are giving your house as a gift to your child. You are transferring the deed. Right? Now, you can't say in the deed, if you get 4 A levels, only I will give you. You must get 4 A's in A level, then this house is yours. You can't put that condition and transfer a deed in Sri Lanka. It has to be free and genuine. You can't put conditions in a deed. So like that. Lawful object. So you are going to achieve something lawful. You can't say go and shoot that person and come, here's the contract. Right? Agreement not declared void. So it has to be agreement that is not voidable. Certainty and possibility of performance. So you can't make it impossible to do something. Right? The contract. You can't make it impossible. And then legal formalities. So that's the legal formalities of the country is established. Right. So this is the part I am interested. So in a project, normally, when they call for a tender, we follow a certain procedure. Right? So first of all, you will see in the newspaper a tender notice. Right? They call the notice inviting the tender. It's only an invitation. We have seen enough and more tenders. Then you submit your proposal. That is your offer. They then say, yep, they have a communication with you and they write to you and say, we are accepting it. They may negotiate and say, okay, we are happy. We will now send you a confirmation. We are accepting it. Now this alone is enough. But we go a step further and we have an agreement. Right? We sign an agreement. I'm offering this for this consideration. And then that then goes into the two lawyers will fight it out into a legal form, a legal contract. Now, some of these contracts runs into thousands of pages. Today, life has been made easy by ChatGPT. You just put the contract through ChatGPT and it will tell you what's wrong with it. Earlier, the lawyers will have to sit and read one by one. Every single word. Okay. So then the contract is signed. Now, when you sign a government contract, you have to be careful. Your government is always right. And of course, there are legal cases where the government has lost, but they will always find ways to overcome that. So you must be familiar with these words. Right? Now, if you see here, this is a Ceylon Shipping Corporation has put expression of interest. And the terms is build, own, BOO, BOO. The term is BOO. Build, own, and operate. So then you have to price it for BOO, not for bot. What do I mean by that? So bot, for example, says build, operate, and then transfer it. So here is a land for you, like the Katunayaka Highway. You build. I don't have the money, you build it, I will give you the land. You operate for 10 years, but after that is mine. So you collect the money for 10 years, after that is mine. So build, operate, then transfer. It's not for you forever. Then you to BTO, build, transfer, operate. So in the case of Hambantota port, the shipping port, China came and built it. They gave it to us. Transferred it. We didn't know what to do with it. So we called China again and gave it for 25 years and said, you operate. But we don't know what, we don't have ships to go there. So China is sending, so build, transfer, and then operate. BRT, this is the latest one, build, rent, and transfer. So, there are projects that's coming up, apartments and things like that. Now, there are big apartments, expensive apartments. Now, I know I can't afford it. So that the Shangri-La, all these things are going at $1 million plus. Right? If I had $1 million, I won't be standing here for 6 hours teaching. I'll tell you that. I will just stay at home. Right? So I can't afford. So what they are saying is, okay, I understand you are a teacher, you have no money. Okay. Now, how much you have? I have a little bit. Here, give it to me. Now, I will build it for you. Next 15 years, 20 years, I will rent it. and I will collect the balance money from the rental and cover the cost. After 15, 20 years, I will transfer it when I have covered my cost. So that is the latest thing. So bill, rent. So at least after 20 years, when I am dead, the apartment will be there. Right? So you need to be, that is another model that's being used. Bill, rent, and then transfer. Boot, normally used for ships, aeroplanes. Boot and boo is normally used for that, right? And so on. Board, build, operate, and deliver, right? Then build, operate, and lease, and so on. So there are various models. So what matters is pricing it right. You must understand what you are pricing, what model you are pricing. Then on top of that, they add other factors and the F, which is finance. So if they say FBOT, finance, you have to finance it yourself, 100%. Or if they say DFBOT, you do your own design as well. We don't care. You finance it, you build it, you operate it, but give it back to me. Right? So these different variations are there when you are contracting with the government. So what does it mean? Finally, who owns this? So if we take the models here, so let's take BOO for an example. The construction is by the private sector, operated, ownership, and so on. So this is no problem. The build, you own it, you operate, it's yours. But if you take DBFO, for example, you build it, you operate it, but I own it. I can kick you out anytime. I'm the owner. So there is a risk element. And so on, right? So each model has its own pluses and minuses. You need to be aware of the risk factor when you are dealing with these type of tenders. Okay. Now let me come to pricing. This is the important thing. Now, when you have done the costing, then you got to do the pricing. The costing is the easy part. Pricing is the difficult part. See, it's like this. When you do now let's say there is a tender. 5 people are going to tender. Most of them, all 5 in fact, will have the same, almost the same cost. Plus or minus 5-10%. You can't have 100 million and another fellow giving 2 million. 100, maybe 102, 99, in that range, the costing part. But please remember, I'm talking about costing, not pricing. Cost will be the same. If you are buying 100 tons of steel, 100 tons of steel is the same cost in Sri Lanka for everybody. It's like buying a loaf of bread. I can't sell it to you for higher price. You can probably negotiate a little bit. That's it. So the cost element is the same. The pricing is what is different. Hope you understand the difference. Pricing is amount you want to tender for. Some people put 10%, some people 50%, some people 2%. They want it very badly. And so on, right? So the pricing element is very important. And why does the pricing vary? Is because of one factor, which is risk. As we saw in the example of our Singaraja project. You can have low risk, high price. Or you have the low price, take the highest risk. That is up to the management. Cost management can't say, no, don't put that much. Who can't? The cost is cost. Right? So when you price it, is important to know which one you want to price. How do you want to price? So for example, you take here, there are 5 types of price. There are a lot more, but I'm just put 5 here. Turnkey. Now, turnkey pricing means flat, fixed. So most of the Middle East projects are fixed. American companies come, say, or Chinese company, don't worry, this is a fixed price, $100 million, I'll finish it for you. Fixed cost. They are also happy because they don't have to spend any more money. So no matter what happens, you have to finish the project for 100 million. Now, if the project goes to 110 million, whose loss is that? Not the owners. I'm the contractor. I have to bear that 10 million extra. If it is, I am always looking to finish it at 90 or 80 million so that I get a big margin. So that's my bonus. So I want to reduce as much as possible and do this project. So in this case, turnkey project, the risk is not with the owner. The owner doesn't care. I have fixed the price, you do whatever. The contractor takes the highest risk. Something happens to the project, he has to bear the cost. Then you get lump sum, that is guaranteed max. A guaranteed maximum is fixed cost plus a margin. So let's say 100 million, and the owner will say, okay, up to 10% on that, I'm happy to accept. Your things may change, I'm happy to accept. So I will take a little bit of the risk. So the risk, owner takes a little bit of risk, but still the price 100 million is there. So the contractor has to finish it. Then you get unit price. Unit price is very straightforward. Now, let's say you are doing an IT project. Unit price is very simple. You feed 300 hours into number of people into whatever rate. That's it. Right? Then you get profit share where you finish a project and you say you agree a percentage to share. The most difficult one is cost plus. The cost plus, the contractor is very happy. Look at the risk. Zero. Why? You want me to build this house? No problem. I will buy the material. You give me every invoice I give you, you give me 10% more. I buy 1 million worth of tiles, you give me 10%. So 1 million tiles and I take 100,000 home. So I'm happy. I have no loss. Now, what will the contractor do? Will he look for the lowest cost or the highest cost?
Highest cost.
He will always look for the highest cost. Why? His 10% is more then. He is not going to look for the lowest cost and give it. He will want to put the invoice maximum. Then his 10% is also high. So the risk for him is very low. But look at the owner's risk. It's very high. Because if this fellow will go and buy the best and put it, then the owner keeps paying 10% more on each one. So when you're doing this pricing, it's important which one you want to do, what fits the project. Who is willing to take the risk? Now, if in Middle East, you will never go on cost plus. They never trust anybody on cost plus. Always guaranteed maximum or turnkey. Now, when you're building a house, you may say cost plus. So you want to be in control of it. Okay. So if you take this and put it into a context, you will see fixed cost, fixed price versus cost plus. Now let's take the level of contractor's motivation. This one, fixed cost, contractor is highly motivated. He wants to reduce the cost as much as possible to make maximum profit because price is fixed. Owner, not bothered. In the case of, let's say, contractor's risk, in a fixed cost, he takes the highest risk. Owner is not bothered. I have fixed the sum, do whatever. The rain comes, it's not my problem. Project defined, it's very high. Here you need to define everything, But the other one is purchasing, right? So here on the fixed price, the control, nothing much. The owner needs to control if it's cost plus. Otherwise, this fellow will go and spend as much as possible. He will find the best transport lorry and bring the stuff because he gets more money. So depends on where you want to draw the line, what suits which project. So pricing is very important. Okay. Right. So I asked a question in the last paper. The chairman, old man, was going to do a project. He has called for tenders. 5 contractors have submitted 5 different prices. But each one submitted on each method, cost plus, fixed cost, lump sum. The daughter was asked to evaluate and give a recommendation. Can do. There is no calculation involved. There is no numbers. Possible to understand? What are the pros and cons? Explain that. And you give your recommendation. Now, what's the right answer here? No right answer. Oh, there is a right answer. There is no right answer. These questions are put there to pass you on. Write whatever you want. You want to tell me is fixed cost? Okay, tell me. And justify it. That's all. You want to show cost plus? Okay, justify it. How can I say which is the right answer? I can't. Nobody can. So what I am looking for is your justification. So somehow I have to get you through, right? So I had to give questions to sort of for you to write some answer. Okay? Right. We are almost coming to the end. Okay. Contract discharge. How does a contract end? Especially in a project, how does a project finish? So if you perform, that is if the time comes, you are completed like your MBA, contract with PIM is over. Or the contractor and finishes his job, hands over the property, contract is over. So completion of contract. So through performance. Second part, breach, failure to perform. Then it becomes a contractual end. Then the owner needs to decide how he or she is going to take action. Frustration due to death of one of the parties or whatever the event. That can bring a contract to an end. Then you are stuck with, like you saw the 10 trees planting. The man dies, or then your contract is in problem. Mutual, both party agrees it's not working out, let's stop. So divorce is an example of mutual. Discharge due to some error in the legal document. So somebody points it out and you can bring the contract to an end. Now, lawyers are interesting guys. A lawyer can tell you, the lawyer can prove that you did the murder, or he can tell you didn't do the murder. How is that possible? If he's a doctor has only one way. He has to save the patient. He will try his best. He's not going to kill the patient. But the lawyer can do both sides. Same case. It depends on which side he got hired. Right? They make a lot of money. So try to avoid going into legal disputes. So cost problem arises in a contract due to time, cost, quality, or the scope. So litigation is one thing that you want to avoid. The lawyers will make a lot of money. You don't want to go to courts and waste time. You will spend 10 years, not only in Sri Lanka, any country, it takes a long time to resolve a dispute. So in that case, arbitration is better. The arbitration is defined in the contract. All arbitrator, who will be the arbitrator, and so on. ADR, Resolution Council. So there are ADRs which are willing to look at it in a neutral manner. If you have a problem, they will look at it and give you their opinion. Of course, both party agrees to pay half-half. Expert resolution. So there's a situation where you can't resolve, experts come in, like for example, ombudsman, right? Financial ombudsman, insurance ombudsman. There are people in Sri Lanka who can come and resolve the problem if you make a complaint. Negotiation. So sometimes you sit down, adult to adult, have a conversation and close it. The best is obviously this. Worst is obviously. Okay, right. Let's move on. So in contracts, this is my last slide. There are certain words you will need to be familiar with, certain type of contracts. We call them Incoterms. It's the international terms used in when you are procuring or when you are signing a contract. Even an invoice becomes a contract once you agree. A performance invoice, then you get an invoice, then you make the advance payment. It's a contract, right? So it's important to understand these words. Ex works means when you buy something, the manufacturer says, I will manufacture, it's in my factory, come and collect it. You take all the risk. I'm not going to take any risk. You come and collect it. So bring your lorry and take it. So that is ex work. Now, when you are pricing, ex work is you need to consider other factors. FAS, with a free alongside of ship. So they will come and leave it at the port and go. There onwards, you take possession. So you need to find the ship. You need to insure the ship. You need to load it onto the thing. So on. So you take that risk. Free on board. This one, I will bring it to the port. I won't leave it there. I will put it onto the ship. Right? So that has a higher cost. Then CIF, which is the most common one, is I will put it onto the ship and I will insure it and I will send it to you. You collect it at your end, but make sure the banks are able to pay me. So you open a LC or whatever. CIF, most common. So they will insure it as well. The new one we use is DDP, which is delivered duty paid. So things like if you order on Amazon or eBay or Alibaba or whatever these things, they come and give it to you at home. While it is coming to you, if there is any tax to be paid, you have to pay the person that tax, and then only they will give you the goods, the deliveries, right? So these what we call Incoterms. Now this has its own challenges. So I have made the mistake in the past where I have priced a product on FOB basis. Actually, I should have priced it on CIF basis. So I assumed it was FOB. I assumed the manufacturer will insure and send it, but he didn't. So when it landed here, I incurred a huge cost. So in my project pricing, I got it wrong. So it's important to use these right terminologies in your contracts, especially with the overseas manufacturers if you are doing a project. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Let's say you are importing sugar from somewhere. It's $1,000 a container. So it has left the port, it's on its way here. Now you are planning to settle the bank when it lands here and clear it, and you are going to sell at 1,200, make some money. But on the way, the ship is coming, the sugar price had dropped in the world. Now the container, each container is only $500. But you have bought it at $1,000. Moment ship comes and stops in the port, the bank will pay. It's nothing you can do to stop. That's what LC means. Moment ship comes to your port, you have to pay the $1,000. Now what are you going to do? So if it comes and lands, you got it at $1,000, and sugar in the market is only $500. So why would you take the sugar at $1,000? What are you going to do with it? Nobody will buy it. What would you do in that situation? What are your options? Any suggestions? Almost done. Don't worry, you can go home. Almost there. 5 minutes. What would you do? I mean, I'm just asking. You are the importer. You got it at 1,000 now, but the product is only 500 in the market. Hmm? What? Hmm? Can I? Okay, so one option is you still take it at 1,000, can't help it, it is coming, and you store it in the warehouse. Normally it's a bonded warehouse. What happens to sugar after 6 months? For the heat of Sri Lanka. You will have an empty container after 6 months. All would have melted. What else? Huh? Sorry? Okay, so another option, don't sell it as sugar, sell it as a confectionery, add value to it, value added product. Now, who will buy at $1,000 and add value when he or she can buy at $500 and add value? But I like the answers, thinking is happening. So what do people do? Do you know? People make the containers disappear. Because if the container lands, no choice, the bank will pay and you are stuck with it. Can the insurance pay you? If the container lands, you say, no, I bought at 1,000, now it's 500. I know the insurance buggers very well, how they operate. There's nothing called insurance. The moment it lands, your insurance is over. It has landed, that's your problem. So you have to make it disappear halfway. Then you can claim insurance. So drop it in the ocean. You can't find the sugar in the ocean after that. Only for containers can be found. Never came to me. You will see suddenly ship catching fire. Diesel, what do you call it? Oil shipment catching fire. Ship was on his way. Oil price has dropped. They don't want it. But miraculously, people escaped, the crew. These are things people do. Right? So legal is very important to be aware of this. I'll give you an example. They used to bring gold from India to Sri Lanka, those hundreds of years ago. Gold was a big commodity. They used to bring here and sell it. But illegally from Jaffna, they used to bring through India to Jaffna and then sell it. But sometimes it gets caught to the Navy. gets confiscated. You're not allowed to bring. So this became a problem. So they went to a Sri Lankan lawyer and asked, how do I overcome this problem? So he said, don't bring it as gold. Exactly what you were saying. Make a nice anchor, gold anchor for the boat and bring it as an anchor. Okay. They got caught. The Navy took it. So they went to the lawyer and said, sir, you said, but don't worry. Court case. The fellow went to the court and said, Judge, tell me or show me the law where it says I cannot make a gold anchor for my ship. If there's a law, I accept. There's no law. So my ship had a gold anchor. I'm a rich man. I will put it. You can't just take it. I didn't bring it as a gold bar. Case dismissed. So that's why I said the lawyers are very interesting characters. The brain works differently. Right? And you can learn a lot from them. You're a lawyer? No. They're nice people. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. When I get into trouble, I only hire them. Right? So these are things you need to be aware of in real life situation. All what I talk about is real life situation. From my example, my experience. So I'm sharing that with you. Nobody's going to come and tell you. Okay? Right. We will stop there. I'll let you go and have your lunch or go home or whatever you all need to do. I'll see you on Saturday. Thank you for coming, by the way. I know it's Independence Day and transport is a bit limited. But thank you for making the effort. I had to do it because I missed the class. We're back to normal from Saturday. Okay? All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.